Yeah. Oh, that's a good start. It's falling asleep already.
No, I'm just getting oxygen. That means your body is lacking oxygen. Do I look tired to you?
Actually, you don't. You look quite
I
awake.
have 5 children here by myself. My wife, the weekend, my wife and daughter decided to go to Peoria. My cousin goes, "Hey, I need you to watch the kids." Like last minute, I'm like, "Okay,
Perfect.
Sure." Although they were pretty good. They can be a bit much, but they were pretty good this weekend.
That's
anyway,
okay.
I'm surprised my top of my head isn't gray.
Oh, no kidding. Okay, so I have to start today's podcast with the fact that this is our 40th podcast.
Oh, wow.
The
big 4-0.
The big 4-0. And I wanted to thank Will, our co-host.
Thank you.
Right there.
You're welcome, but I thank you for having
that co-host. Let me give you the big picture. Oh, there you are, the big picture.
It's been fun. I like it. I enjoy this very much. I like still talking gear.
Yes.
And I think that's what makes this hopefully a good podcast to listen
Different.
to.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. So that's cool. So that's the first piece of news, I thought. 40th. That's pretty amazing. Although I did see somebody, I was watching my favorite video guys, and they were putting out their 785th, so
you got a little bit of
we have a long way to go. Okay, so my first piece of news is somewhat anticlimactic, I believe is the appropriate word, and that is Waves V12. I told you came out, but now V12.7 came out. Yep. Now I'm going to tell you why this is significant. V12.7 actually does all the things they promised in V12. That's why. So basically, resizing your plugins, which by the way I tested didn't work. But anyway, maybe I just grabbed the wrong one. I don't know. It is supposed to be faster. There's a user preset system, which I think is cool, and the graphics are better. But I think the most important thing is, up till now, Waves has had, in my opinion, the absolutely worst way to search for a plugin, that it's ridiculous, or a preset. Theoretically, this has all been fixed. Now that I haven't tested yet, I did install it. The installation went pretty smoothly, I have to say. Although I did have a problem with sound toys, I don't even understand. But anyway, so they're supposed to be able to resize them, and I see that you're actually not, the dragging and clicking thing does not really that well. You have to kind of right click and say 120%, 150%, blah, blah, blah. But the cool part is to find a preset you can search for them. And to me, that's kind of the most significant thing that there is with Waves 12.7. So installed, and we'll play with it a bit and see if if there's anything else more significant. And that's my first piece of news. What's yours?
Their website is really like...
Yeah, I know.
In them, right? Anyway, does this include the M1 update, or was that already written? Because I know they're now compatible with M1 chips on the Mac.
I did not see anything saying that, but it is possible.
They are, but I don't know if that came with 12.7 or if they implement that earlier. But I was going to look on their website, but it's like they take you straight to the sale page, like, here, buy our stuff. I get it, they're good stuff, but there's like no news, no.
I had quite the plug-in week because my sound toys just stopped working. And then I installed what I thought was a new update, but no, it's the same thing I've got. And installed, and it was completely missing. Didn't show up. I had no idea how to use it. There was no way. So then I reinstalled it for a second time. Suddenly everything was there. I have no clue why, but I don't know. But I thought I gave it my 6-month, let's try the new OS idea.
Okay.
And there is still a ton that doesn't work with it. A ton. My hardware seems to.
I'm having a little bit of trouble with some stuff.
Yeah, and you know what?
Because I'm not only on Big Sur, but I also have the M1.
Yes, right. And this doesn't.
So I'm having trouble. Well, don't don't spoil it yet. Loopback disappeared. There's just a question mark there out of nowhere. I just opened it up and it's gone. Everywhere I was installed, there's a question mark.
Yeah.
I put a shortcut on. Anyway, that's another episode. But my news is actually a repeat of some news. It was just a teaser when I brought it up a few months ago.
Okay.
At the same time, DJi was slapped with a label by the former president of the country, United States. We don't want to get into politics, but they were put on a list of vendors from China that were not allowed to do trade with America anymore, and so they ended up squashing the supposed release, and it finally happened last week. DJi released the FPV drone, which is first-person view. And what that means is instead of looking at the drone in the sky or looking it on a screen on your phone, you put goggles on, and you see where the drone is flying. There's some crazy people out there that do some pretty cool stuff with these style drones. It's nothing new, but I was not worried because I don't think I don't need a new drone yet, but I might get one now that this came out. It's really affordable and it's a super high quality, super fun to play with drone. Because you could do some cool stunts you can't do on this other DJi stuff we have, but they also have not your traditional. They have your traditional controller as we're used to with our drones, but then they have a joystick, and whatever you do in space, the drone follows. So there's 3 levels, which is smart because I don't think FPV is for everybody. Just because you flew a drone does not mean you can fly FPV. It's a different world, and I'm not.
It is a different world.
I've never flown myself. But I've seen people destroy drones because it's not that easy.
No, it's not.
So they have a beginner mode, an intermediate mode, and an advanced mode. And like it even says when you flip on advanced mode, all things are you're on your own. But they made it modular, which is really cool because if you do break a propeller or a leg or the camera, you can actually swap parts on the fly. And and the total price with the everything you need, including the goggles, like $1,300.
Yeah,
that is amazing.
It was on my list too. I have to say it was on my list too, but I wasn't gonna. We talked a little bit about it coming. In fact, I think a little. We didn't know what it was going to be, but we kind of talked about the possibility. What I'm amazed at, first of all, it does 62 miles an hour, so that's pretty fun.
That's amazing.
And it does do 4K, and so it was on my list also. And I have to say I'm intrigued by it. But it's really, boy, did you hit the nail on the head? It is not for everybody. This is, to me, this is video games. That's what this is to me. This thing is a video game drone.
Sure, but you can. I think you can use this for some great cinematic photos or
super fast, high-speed stuff, and crazy racing kind of things.
Extreme sports like skydiving and all that stuff.
Are you flying? Are you going to be doing the next Star Wars? Because that's what you need to do this kind of.
Yeah, I think so. I need to find a reason to get this thing.
I know.
So maybe I'll try to join a film crew of some sorts.
Yeah. No, it's cool and very impressive. Yeah, it looked neat. I looked at the footage and stuff like that. It looks cool. Very cool. Aston Microphones joined a music tribe. Do you know who Tribe? So you know Aston is. Aston makes really great. It's a British mic company. They make really nice mics, but they've been acquired by Behringer. They're going kind of crazy. Actually, their parent company, which is Music Tribe. So now they owned Midas, Clark Technique, Tannoy, Turbo Sound, and Aston. So they are kind of growing. It's very interesting. As we know, we've talked a lot about their quality improvements and how incredible some of their stuff is for the money. And so that is pretty cool, I thought. They make really nice mics. Have you ever heard an Aston mic? I have. They're really nice.
I've not. And they look really contemporary for what we're used to seeing in mics. I like the way they look. I've seen and heard a lot of good things about them. They're pretty good. They're priced pretty well, but I've never used one in my life.
Yeah. I have one more. Do you have one more?
I have not. I just had the DJi. I got really excited about that one. And
I don't blame you. I had it on my list, but I thought you would probably want to go cover it, so I didn't touch it. I know. I'm such a nice guy. So do you remember SynthSpace, since we're doing VR this week?
No.
The virtual modular synth?
Yes.
Okay. It's been unveiled, and it's coming out with 40 modules. So it's the first row of first module collection is going to include 40 plus modules. And it'll work with the Oculus Rift, the Quest, the HET Vive, and the Valve Index. So it looks really fun. And back to the point of this whole idea of virtual stuff, I could see why someone wanted to play with a virtual synth, kind of plugging in and trying stuff in space. I don't know. I think this is not anywhere near as interesting as the FPV is, but it's a fascinating thing that they're doing.
No, that's actually really cool. I'm watching a little bit of footage on it, and
yeah,
it's like if you had a real Euro rack in
a
front
rack.
of the guys, like plugging in synths and stuff.
It's pretty cool, huh?
It's not expensive.
No.
So $30. It's. I don't have VR, so.
Yeah, but I think you pay for modules, I believe, or maybe it comes with. I don't know. I don't actually know, so I don't.
Oh, maybe you got to buy it and then.
Maybe
you add more modules, but anyway, I don't have a VR headset, so I can't even use it.
Yeah, I don't know about a VR set. Those things change so fast. That's one bandwagon I didn't need to be on with all the other bandwagons, so. But someday I could see getting one, and the prices are coming way down. Plus, I think Apple's getting into the game too. We'll see what they say. So that is news, I believe.
That is news.
That is the news. So I made a movie that I hope will work. Let's see if this works. Tell me if you can hear this, Mr. Will. Ready?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, it's here. Yikes. It's huge. It's huge. Well, we're going to do some opening. This could be dead space for the audio podcast.
Yes.
Well, that's the unboxing. Now I got to move it. So we'll see how this works. I had to do it in the garage. It was the only way. That's where it's going to go. I have it outlined in tape. So I'm going to take the tape off. Well, let's see if I measured right. Totally out of breath.
Yeah, you sound like a little winded.
Looks like I might have. Okay, got to get the cable. Okay. I'm getting too old for this. Oh, yeah. Behind the table. Oh, yeah. Had to climb back there. Well, I will say the space is perfect.
It does look
okay. Rest is to come. Bye-bye.
It's like a glove.
Yeah, it's kind of good, huh? Yeah, that worked out pretty well. I have lots to say about all this. This is, let me show you, this is the finished thing here. That's the board lit up. And let me see if I have any more. That's it. So
it's a good looking board. I like the way it looks.
Yeah, it's an attractive board. So as you can see, I picked the Behringer wing. I sold a lot of stuff to get to be able to do this, and it was kind of interesting. There's a lot of good things about this. Here's the gear that it replaced: the big knob, the Behringer X32 producer, a rack, 2 keyboard stands, and I don't mean like synth keyboards, like desktop keyboards stands.
Like typing keyboards.
Yeah, keyboards, right. Computer keyboards. And a whole lot of cables, like a shocking amount of cables, which is great, I think. And what that did was give me room. Let me see if I can do this. It gave me room for a new desk area. So this is what I ended up with desk-wise. I don't know if you can see this or not. Can you? No, there. So this whole area here is like new, and I'm able to use like my video controller, my other video controller, a tablet, and a mouse and a keyboard, and not have anything buried anymore. It's all completely right on the neck, and everything is really, really close to me, including this, which I'm going to get to in a minute. This is an iPad Pro, and it's it allowed me to get rid of so much stuff that suddenly I had all this room, and it was like, this is unbelievable. So much so, and this is interesting, well, only to us, but the camera has been moved from the dead center position on a stand, right? The main camera, my main camera, to the left, to the corner. And believe it or not, I'm using the
Joby Gorilla.
Yeah, the Joby. Yeah, the Joby, and which is working great because it has one leg that's bent up on a piece of of glass, and another leg is bent around a piece of glass. It's awesome, and it works. It works fabulous.
Exactly what I'm doing is like twisting them around to fit on things. Yeah,
exactly, and it's really cool. And so I put it in the corner, which means it's not blocking. I can leave it there all the time. It's not blocking the speaker. It's not. Let me see if I can get that picture again. I don't know if you can see it. It's there. It is. That's the Joby right there. The camera's right above it, and it's in the corner. But over here, what you can see is this is where I look when I'm doing this, which means it looks like I'm looking at the camera, but it's at an angle. Now, what this also meant was that this whole green screen had to move, right? At an angle. It's kind of a weird. It looks weird because it's an angle. But here's the great part: this would not have fit if I still had the rack here.
Oh, the rack you got rid of.
So all of this stuff, and I can walk out on the other side, which I never could. I was like in here like a cocoon. So the whole thing, ergonomically speaking, this is the epitome of studio shrinkage.
I was just going to say, you performed a little studio shrinkage magic on your own setup.
I performed studio shrinkages. I think that is
not only am I a member, or not only am I the president, but I'm also a member. Sorry.
That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about, I'm going to move this over so that I can read it and not look like I'm away from the camera. So that's all the gear it got rid of. It's pretty significant. A lot of cables, which I thought was a little surprised at, actually. So let me tell you about the issues that I had, though. Okay, they were all USB issues. Okay, there was no issues with the controller. No dropouts. I have now been running this, I would say, for 20 hours on and off, controlling Logic, controlling every DAW. Zero problems. So if you think about it from on those terms alone, it has completely fixed my problem, because that was the main point. That was why I did this, right? Was to basically solve this ridiculous, I can't stay connected to my DAW controller problem. That is completely fixed. I have zero problem. The thing that's shocking about it to me is it's all over a one USB 2 connection. And the thing that's incredible about that is that not only is it doing control without slipping out, but it's also running 48 channels of audio I/O, back and forth, which is...
I don't understand how that all works.
It's just...
mind-blowing.
It's mind-blowing. It is really mind-blowing. So, it seemed to work great, and I figured... Well, if this all works great, I thought maybe it'd be a good idea to press my luck and try to get it through everything. And some was good, some was bad, but the thing that was like really good, as an example, the first thing I thought about is, why do I need this board? Well, I should preface this. This board, you can route anything to anything, and I mean, not only can you route ins to any outs or any kind of a bus or any of that, all the normal stuff you can do with digital, but the way it does it is really different. But you can also route you can change every button on you can make every button do something else. It's like nutty. So I thought, why don't I hook up all of my speakers, including the PA, to separate outputs, TRS outputs on the board. Why do I need a headphone mixer anymore? I didn't need it anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I ran into a problem with this. The problem is that the default of the board, the mains are set to go and get fed by everything. The other three channels, the outputs, are not. Well, I didn't know that, and there was nobody that's saying that. So I tried forever to figure out why am I not able to send a mic in or anything else on the board to any of the other feeds, and that's because you have this weird trickery you have to do. You have to push the matrix thing, and you've got to push a view, and then you got to say, then you push this bus master thing, and then all the lights come up that say what's muted and what's not, and you do it to each one of the selections. Let me see if I can show you what I'm talking about. Yeah, so this is the routing section for the main outputs because I put them that way. This could be here. It doesn't matter where it is. It's just to me it's logical to put it on the right end. So I wired channels. Every channel in this board is stereo. So it's 48 stereo channels. It's not 48 mono channels.
Wow.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah,
so. And then you select, okay, I have one device connected to it. Okay, that'll be mono. I have two devices. Okay, it'll be the two channels. It's really cool. So each fader, this fader is my mic, and it is a stereo, it's a single feed, but it's basically a stereo out. And you can see the dual inputs. Okay, so the first set of speakers I have are the Genelecs. The second set are the Atoms, and I labeled them. I don't know if you can see them, but you can. They're labeled that, and it can use different colors.
I can't read it. But.
Yeah, and this is green, darker green, and then the third one is the focal sub. The last one is the PA system, and there's icons that basically show what they are, so you can see them from anywhere. So in order to get everything to talk to this, I had to basically do a view and then a bus master, and then it says, okay, this is all the things that are assigned to this. But there was nowhere, I couldn't find any documentation on this. I just found it on YouTube somehow. So anyway, once I figured it out, I just turned all the mutes off, and now everything goes to all of those channels, all 8 of those outputs. So I'm using the first 2, XLR outs for the PA, and then the next 6 for the to the speakers, the monitors.
Wow.
Now here's another issue. Over here is your monitor system. I could not get my headphones. You have a monitor and headphone thing, volume control. The problem is I could not get them to. Let me bring this up a little bit. I could not get this to route any of the outputs. The same problem, I believe, because it didn't see everything on the board, right? So this is operator error mostly. I mean, it's the fact that I didn't understand the board that well. And in all fairness, this became a massive change. This is one of the issues with doing this kind of stuff, right? Because it becomes an absolutely massive change to your system. I mean, this isn't like small, because now I've decided, okay, well, let's just reroute everything. On top of all this, I think I mentioned it, on top of all this, there's a 48 channel USB audio interface. So I started thinking about this, and I thought, well, why am I using but on the left-hand side over here, I have my rack of audio gear, right? And I thought, why do I want to use all that, higher-end, kind of high-end sounding, crazy stuff with the mic pre's and all that stuff, just to do things like podcasting, just to do things like, well, actually, frankly, anything other than recording. Mm-hmm. So if I could turn this whole thing off all the time and just use the board to do everything, which, by the way, the mic pre's are incredible in here. They're really, really, really good. So now that's another rack. I'm not certainly getting rid of this, but I could see, this does bring up the question, that I could see one day that this one board would actually do everything I would ever want.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? And it sounds...
I don't know I don't remember your studios before Evanston, but coming from that to then, each step, it's smaller and smaller for good reasons, whatever reasons.
Yeah, right. And power. But things got better.
And more power. And if I would have told you 10, 15 years ago when you were at Evanston, you can do all of this with one little board, and a couple pairs of speakers and a computer, you would have been like, no way.
No way.
There's no way. No way. Yeah.
I know.
I would have probably said the same thing. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Kind of come not full circle, but like just the progress, the progression is just amazing.
Yep. So the system works well with all the DAWs I have, all of them. Not only the controller, as a controller, Which let me show you this. Hang on. You push this button, and everything becomes a DAW. Everything. The whole surface becomes a DAW. And it is so easy, and I'll explain that part later, but it's amazing. And so with Logic, it worked, and this is the way I can see the idea of someday, replacing all this. But here's what it doesn't do. If you think back to the slate idea, the idea of being able to, draw things and touch for EQs and, all that kind of stuff is very slick to me. And then I started thinking about the fact that why I'm going to miss that, but at least this is tactile. At least this is something I can relate to. The iPad with Logic has an incredible free app that basically allows you to do everything you want with all of the plugins for Logic itself, and you can do things like draw EQ and all that kind of stuff, the same kinds of power. And I'm thinking maybe it's a combination thing. Maybe I need to mount an iPad to do those little tweaky things and knobs. And by the way, it does work. By the way, this does work with plugins. It's just not as fancy because it's just dials. But it comes up. If you pull up a plugin with this and you're running Logic, it actually will allow you to control all of the parameters of that plugin with sliders. But it does way more. But wait, it's like a Ginsu knife. Because it also is a phenomenon. I don't know if anyone's ever used GarageBand on an iPad, where you can play instruments and stuff like where you can play instruments and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It does all the same controls, the piano control, the drum pad things for Logic. But you're in Logic on the screen, but you're on this iPad when you're controlling it. Which means, I remember how I used to always complain about the fact that my keyboards are over there, and it's great, I can use them, and it's not that far. But to do something quick, to see what would this sound like, I have to go all the way over to the... Not anymore. This thing just controls it. And it's like so small, and right here, it's like this combination of stuff. The truth of the matter is, you begin to think about the keyboards next, right?
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. For me, I'm a keyboard player.
I know, and you got more keyboards than all the keyboard players you've ever worked with.
So it's kind of... No, but, there's a little bit of truth to it. But anyway, so the point is that this combination, this unique combination of Logic, an iPad, and this desk, it's incredibly, just amazingly powerful. Just unbelievable. All the things this thing can do. And then when I want to really record and get I can still use all my analog stuff and feed it in, because it becomes, basically what I did here, I don't know if you can see this, you probably can't, but right now, this board is laid out, it's 1 through, the way it's laid out is this is 1 through 12, 13 through 24, 24 through 25 through 36. And that's this section here, right here, these first 3 sections. And the way I have it laid out is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 comes from the mic pre's, on-board mic pre's. You can have 400 and something connections at once to the board. It's ludicrous. Next to that, I have the feeds coming from my Orion, from the big rack. And one from the Zentour, one from the PC, if I need that. And then this big W here says wing. And that's because it's the feeds from the wing. This is how I can control the feed going to the USB ports from this wing itself. And this is my mic. So see, what I'm saying is that these have nothing to do with each other whatsoever. It's just what I programmed into that fader. And you can make anything. And here's the amazing thing about this. You actually program this by name and not by number. So this says ML Lav mic, and there's a picture of a lav. So no matter where you go throughout the system, even if you go to a completely different place, that's what shows up. It doesn't show number 1. It shows all this crazy, whatever you put in there.
New to a lot of us, because forever it's always been mic line 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, in order, sequential. But now it's like anything is anything.
Anything is anything.
It's probably been this way in other digital boards. But I just think a lot of us were used to just the convention of.
It has to some degree, but not like this. This is what their thinking was. Their thinking was, hand the guy an iPad, who's helping on stage. Go up there and say, what are you plugging this into? Oh, I'm going to plug this into your channel AES 30, AES 130. And he goes, what is it, a bass drum? He goes, type in bass drum in there. Boom! Everywhere on every board that's linked to this thing is now has that channel. And now the guy can program that channel to that specific fader.
Yeah.
And it comes up, oh, bass drum.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's a really, really cool idea. So this concept took a little while for my sorry brain to understand fully. So, boy, there was some frustration. But anyway, that iPad combination for me solves the whole idea of I don't care about slate boards anymore. You know, not that I did anyway, really, but I mean, it solved a big problem. Now we run into some issues. The sound card works well. This is a strange one. Ready? There's a conflict between the rack I'm telling you about, my main rack, and the wing as an audio interface. You can have them both plugged in at all times. It doesn't matter. Okay? And you can select using the audio driver, the Mac audio drivers, what you want sent where. But here's something that is beyond strange. I have had this. Okay, suddenly I got, this is so weird. When I was using the wing, for some reason, once it's happened twice now, the audio coming from the system, which in this case would be the wing, bear with me here, somehow got sent to a third and fourth USB port, which of course wasn't tied to anything. And I was trying to figure out why. First of all, why would it do that? And second of all, how would you even fix it? Because there's no, you'd have to reroute everything. That makes no sense. What I found out is I had to reboot the board. So that's a weird conflict. And I don't know if it's conflict with the fact that I had two audio cards or whatever. But here's the other thing. If you have the wing plugged in before my main rack system is plugged in, you can't switch to that audio system. Meaning that you can control it, but it doesn't. The wing just takes precedent. You can't unplug the wing because then you lose your DAW control because everything's on one USB port, right? So this conflict causes a real issue if you're using the rack. So the solution to this is, if you're going to use the rack, is you plug it in first. You make sure that that's the main audio device. Logic is now running with that audio device. And then you plug in the USB port for wing. And now it sees it, it's okay, but it runs the audio through the proper channel. But you still have, isn't that weird? But you still have the DAW control. That works fine. That never has a problem. So I'm exhausted. So that was my experience with this so far. I had a lot of strange issues with arranging things and putting things places and stuff that I just didn't make a lot of sense to me. What were you going to ask?
No, I was going to say, why don't you just create an aggregate device with both the wing and your Orion so that they're always available to everything, and it won't cause any conflicts. Use the aggregate of the two as your sound card.
Or an aggregate device as in the audio?
In the audio media, yeah. I just did this the other day. USB turntable, and I wanted to use that and send a touch tone. I'll explain more later. It's that scratching digital vinyl stuff, but it sends a signal, a tone, into the computer, and then you put it through the software, and then it plays out of your sound card. But in this situation, it was USB. When I selected that as my inputs, it also said, well, that's your output. Ins and outs, you can't combine them in Mac or in the DJ software. Yeah. So I was like, well, how am I supposed to play it out the speakers if it's only going to see, you can only pick one input device. And it dawned on me, I was like, aggregate device. I made an aggregate device of ins from this turntable and out to the main sound card, and I called it DJ or whatever. I can quickly select it, and it works flawlessly. It sees the tone from the turntable, but sends the audio out of the Mac speakers because I created the aggregate device. So in your situation, you're saying it's conflicting. Well, why don't you create an aggregate? When you open up Logic, you say, I want the aggregate of both the Orion and the wing, and I can use any of the 48 here or the 36 there or whatever, however many you have. I don't know if that would...
It's like about 80 of them now. Here's the thing. I'm not sure what the wing would allow you. What happens is it literally, this is really strange. The wing becomes a dominant audio card, period. Nothing else exists. If I unplug it, and plug it back in again, oh, it's okay. So I'm not sure making an aggregate device would actually help.
Oh, I see.
So it's a little weird. There's also one other thing I should tell you. The Wing comes with an iPad control device, which is spectacular. And the reason, even though this has got a touch screen, which is terrific, it's a terrific touch screen. It's great. It's like 10 inches and it's really easy to use. But when you're setting up channels, I found an iPad to be much better. So I was trying to get this camera to work. It's in heat or something. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, I can turn it on, but I think it just goes wacky. Oh yeah, it's bye-bye. Bye-bye. Yeah, so anyway, this iPad. Anyway, this guy is controlling this right now, and you have meterings, and you set up scripts and all the stuff that you can do with the board with this touchscreen. You can actually do with this and more, and it's easier to type on here. And plus, it's close to me again. And then when I'm done and the board's set up, of course, once it's set up, it doesn't matter anyway, really. But I then actually basically just get this guy off, and I set it up for Logic. I have had some weird problems with this talking to Logic. I don't get it, actually. I'm not sure why. But anyway, once it's up there and running, what a combination of stuff. I mean, it really works. So I guess it's about 90% good news.
Amazing. I was expecting a lot worse.
Yeah. It wasn't a simple transition. But I don't think anything like this is a simple transition. I think there's a lot of work that has to be done, and those drivers, and then I had normal stupid plug-in tricks, which happens every time there's an update of anything. So anyway, it's working. The biggest problem was certainly solved, and by the way, that was the part that I was, of course, the most worried with and tried first. And that problem just was completely resolved instantly. I didn't have to do. I have not had one dropout as a controller, not one dropout. No matter what software I'm using, no matter what's going on. There are some interesting things to say about that, though, and I wish you could see the board a little better. Sometimes I'll have to do more. Right here this is the control surface area, and you can. It's pretty neat. There are defaults when you want to set it up for DAW control. And the defaults basically say, what DAW do you have? And it's a starting point, but they actually give you they give you 4 layers. 4 layers, 1, 2, 3, 4, of controls that turns these buttons into for the control surface. So you have latch and play and record and all this great stuff. And then there's like zoom and scrub, and if you push the zoom button on this, which of course is stupid, I have no DAW running, it zooms the screen and goes out. So when I started by programming them, because I thought, I want to make this exactly what I want, and then when I went back to the defaults, and I just loaded the defaults after I spent all this time building this thing, and I looked at the defaults and I went, Jesus, the defaults are better, and I mean it's really a good, well thought out set of defaults, and so I just used the defaults for this.
They were actually pretty well planned.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that works great. The audio. I'm sure this is something that someone would think about. Is the audio quality is pretty great. It uses, not Midas designed like the X32 Behringers and stuff like that, Mic Pre's, but actually Midas Pro Mic Pre's. So the things that are in this board are actually made by Midas. So they're not only designed, but they're made by Midas. In addition to that, you can use any of now I'm talking PA mostly, but you can use any of the rack boxes that worked before. They'll all work with this. But they also design new ones with the Midas Pro. And you can, I think, a 32 channel in, 32 channels all out stage box is $1,200 with Midas Pro.
That's affordable.
Now,
can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you still
I don't know
have
if I can answer it.
do you still own the network headphone stuff from
Yes.
the X32?
Yes.
And does that work with this?
I have not tested it, but it will.
Should, right? Oh, that's even better. So
Yep.
now you.
I own it because I have it running off of the main set of controls, And the reason how I have that running in this particular case is I'm using it's a power play. And what the power play has in the back is 16 inputs, TRS inputs, and then then there's 6 Ethernet cables in front. And so you can feed in 16 analog feeds, which are, guess what, coming from 1 through 6, no, I think they come through actually 24 through 32 or something, of the outputs of my antelope into that. And so I feed all of in Logic, I have a whole series of 16 outputs. And so I have 15 to 16 are drums, 1 is vocal 1, 2 is vocal 2, et cetera. And so everything's routed automatically with a template I built to send those signals, and then everybody can take their PM16s, I think they're called. Then they basically have control over their knobs. That same set of tools will work exactly with this. Although, if you were buying this new, I would not do that. And the reason I wouldn't do that is they have now designed and released a brand new personal monitoring system built for this board.
Probably better.
And it looks nice.
Okay.
But I wouldn't do it because my stuff is already here and it works fine. So.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, it was quite a week. It was quite a week, and I have a bunch of other stuff that happened that I can't even talk about right now. So anyway, that is the conclusion of this. I have to say it's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive. I mean, this is a $3,500 board, and you can pick it up. They lowered the price, and I think I've heard why they've lowered the price, because they've lowered the price on all Behringer stuff by getting rid of middlemen, I believe. You can get all the stuff at Sweetwater, and it's now $29.99 or something like that. And it's a pretty ridiculous price for this much stuff.
Yeah, this is amazing.
It's an incredible, and the quality, the build is great. It's all metal. It's got a nice plastic kind of front here. I don't know if you can see my hand. You can't. Got a control surface. The whole surface is great. The touchscreen's phenomenal, actually. It's way better than I ever would have thought it would be. It's really, really easy. It makes me nervous when I pull it up. I think I'm going to break it every time I touch it. But it's really solid. It scares me because it's kind of stiff, but it's probably because it's brand new, and I'm sure they're.
Yeah, you got to break it in maybe.
Yeah, but it's terrific, and once things are things are set, I really just keep it down below. So it's not in the way of my monitor system, as in screens, and now I can do everything here anyway on my iPad. So I don't know that it, I don't really need this board. But maybe I can push this up now and you can see it a little better. Oh, of course it's reflecting, but anyway, that's there. There you go. So these are the metering system. This is routing, and it's kind of cool. So if you say local in, aux in, AES in, oscillator, AE50, 1, 2, 3. There's 3 of them now. Stage connect, USB audio. So these are all your inputs, right? So you picked aux in, and these are aux. And you have sources, channels, and outputs. And all you do is click, and boom, they get wired. And that's the way it's set up. And then this is stuff like set up things like, I know you can't really see this, but just set up like, your clock's initialization, things like that, resolution. And you can name it. This is named my company name, so it's kind of cool. And then this is a really important part, the library, because when you do this, you can save it, and you can save it on a USB card, or you can save it and back it up onto your, there's memory inside the board, and then there's a utility button. So it's really, really an amazing tool, and I have to say, I'm impressed. I give it 4 stars so far, 4.5 stars maybe. It's not a lot of manuals. The manuals suck. If you're expecting to get manuals on this, forget it. I read the manual. It's like, you're in trouble when you download the manual. It's 28 pages, and there's 5 languages. so that means you're only getting like 6 pages of, It's basically a startup manual. They do not tell you how to use this board. But I'll tell you what they did very well, though. They have a series. In fact, I'm going to bring them up because it's really quite remarkable. They have a series of videos. There are 21 that I counted Behringer created videos on every single step of how you set this up, which frankly may be a better way to go anyway. In addition to that, I found several people. There's one called DBB Audio, and I think this is really good. And this guy's starting a YouTube, well, he's been a YouTube guy for a while, but he basically is doing an entire series on this. He's done X32 before, so he's really handling this pretty well. I found another company called BEPOV, and they do pretty good stuff. And then Sweet Tree Productions. And they have a whole series of 9 video from on YouTube that you can get. And there's many more, I'm sure. Anyway, that's the end of my diatribe about this. I'm finished. I hope I never have to do this again. I am so tired of this. It's so much work. But I see the possibilities. You know? So it's pretty cool. I didn't think, the one thing, I think the surprise was I didn't expect to get rid of the headphone system.
Yeah, the big knob.
Yeah. Oh, I have a weird one for you. They put the, I don't know if you can see this. They decided to put the headphone jacks back there underneath.
No, that's not, well.
It's not good in my case because I had glass next to it and I couldn't fit them in. And it forced me to bring everything closer, which I wasn't planning. It's closer, but as it turns out, it actually ended up being better for me because everything's really right. I can actually touch all this very easily. And so that was a little pain in the neck. But once I got it in, it's in for life. I don't need to really move it. So, but anyway, there's 2 headphone circuits. And that is my review and my end of part 2. Thank God. I don't know if we're ever going to do another part 2-parter. It's a lot of work.
I thought it was going to be 3 parts to be continued on.
And that leads us to our next segment, which is plugin/software.
I'm glad you said it like that because I did change it up a little bit.
Good.
But I'll let you go first.
Oh, why? I've been talking for an hour.
I know, I'll give you a break. A breather. So, thinking back to what you said last week, maybe we should not cover full piece of software, but something...
Utilities and...
utilitarian. Yeah. And I thought now with Ableton Live 11 coming out recently, and talking with our friend Chris that was one of our guests recent podcast, he and I were talking again about remixing and revisiting some stuff we were trying to do maybe 10 years ago when we were both working together. One of the hardest parts of doing what we wanted to do, remixing, was matching all this music together. Back then, I think Live was around 10 years ago, but it was earlier in its development, and nobody else really could understand, or, well, I shouldn't say understand, but nobody had really gotten the whole time stretch thing down really well yet.
Yeah.
And Ableton is, to this day, I think in my opinion, still one of the better time stretching
It is absolutely
tools.
one of the better ones. I agree with you.
So my focus is just on what I think they call it time warp, not time stretch. And it's their algorithm that ended up working out to be one of the best. Now, when you turn on time warping, as it is default, you can only stretch audio so far, or shrink it so far, and then it's going to sound either digitally distorted, or really not great and out of pitch and blah blah blah. But there are a number. Let me just drag some audio. I'm not going to play it. I just need a piece of audio. Warp. It's disabled by default, and I turn it on. Its default setting is called beats, and what that's great for is anything that has a hard transient, like drums. It locks on, and you could pull, stretch, and do whatever you want, and it's fine. But that doesn't quite work for audio. For, like, example, you're doing a remix, you take a little cut of a song and you want to turn it into dance. Well, say a pop song is 100 BPM, but you want to make a dance track that's only going to work at 135, 140 BPM. That's a lot to stretch.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So if you drop down the menu option, it has 6 different options: beats, tones, texture, repitch, complex, and complex pro. And complex pro is what makes this possible. and I was able to take a song. I want to say it was like 85 beats per minute, kind of pop-ish song from back early 2000s, 15 years ago, and I was able to stretch it to 135 BPM.
Jesus, that's unbelievable.
That's up, yeah. And usually when you do that in DJ records, it was always the pitch control on the Technique turntable. Right. It would turn into a chipmunk. That's another thing. If you're going to go that high, it's going to be.
So have they changed the algorithm? Is that what they're doing?
I don't think so, because Complex Pro has been an option there since I was using it back then. So I would imagine they've improved upon it, but I don't think anything about the Warp engine is new. But I just this piece of this little tiny part, just a little tiny option in your sample when you drop audio there. And some people may never even use it if you're just doing recording or creating your own music. But for what me and Chris are trying to do, that little tiny option, it opens a lot of windows for us to be able to kind of cross not genres, but just that have such a huge gap between song tempos, because before we couldn't, before Live did this, we were not able to go
what would you
that
call
far.
this? What is the name? I mean, is this just the stretch
It's
tool,
called Time Warp. It's a strict, I don't know, they try to they've always stayed away from calling it time stretching, and they call it warp. So once you drop a piece of audio on a track, you click on the view on the bottom, the waveform, and it shows you your looping positions, and then it shows you could do some pitch transposing, and then the warp. Yeah, just turn it off and on. So it's a quick little tiny piece of nothing.
Yeah, but I think it's one of the most important pieces of Live. You want to know the truth. The interesting thing to me is that it did it so flawlessly, so cleanly, that it allowed me to pitch background parts, let's say to a voice maybe that wasn't the right pitch. They had to, because they just couldn't sing in that pitch. So, I mean, it really made a big difference. I think it's an incredible tool, but it must have, maybe they've changed the algorithm. Maybe it's gotten better. I don't know, but it's never been bad. It's always been the best I've ever.
Yeah. So that is
that's a good one.
Utilitarian piece of software. It's not the whole Ableton Live. We could talk about Ableton Live for hours and hours, but I just wanted to mention that little tool helps me and Chris do what we do, and a lot of people, frankly.
Sure, of course.
In that realm.
Yeah, absolutely. So mine actually isn't that much of a difference, because mine is a piece of a 3-part package that I think we've talked about from time to time, but and that is Apple Motion. Now, Apple Motion is a standalone app. It's Apple's video effects tool. It's some people compare it to After Effects from Adobe, some other things. It doesn't do everything After Effects does, but After Effects costs a real lot of money. I would say like Final Cut Pro, it does 90% of anything you'd ever want to do, and it does it easier than anything else. I think it's just so easy to use. It's crazy, and it is, when you think about it, it is a standalone app. It's $50. I mean, it's $50 if you. It's ridiculous. And it works in 2D, 3D, 360 titles, fluid transitions, realistic. I mean, it's just like real-time stuff. It's unbelievably powerful. It's very streamlined. Of course, it's a Mac-only product, so those of you who don't have a Mac, that's going to be a problem, of course. It works with 3D objects, and you can control position and rotation and all sorts of crazy behaviors. But that's the thing that's the most amazing thing to me. The reason that this is unusual is this thing called behaviors. Behaviors it's almost, I guess you could call, it's like akin to maybe templates, although it's way more than that. I want to do something with this kind of motion. And you go to the behaviors toolkit, and you pull it out and you see 6 million things you can do by just dropping it on whatever object you want it to do. And it's done. Boom. It's programmed. That's it. So if you want it to roll in and spin and roll out or something like that. It's almost like a completely insane, over the top PowerPoint. Where you like, I want text to come in and go away. It's so much more sophisticated, and it does it not only in 2D but in 3D. It's an amazing tool, and Behaviors is really incredible.
I've never dived that deep into it, but I really like it for the intro stuff you can do, and like camera motions, like swiping around, turning around, and it's so cool.
It's so cool.
Pretty easy to use, and even some of the preset template stuff they give you out of the boxes.
Yeah, is amazing.
Very usable.
Yeah, it is absolutely stuff. Yeah. The other side I think that's really amazing is the generators tab, because they have hundreds of objects that are pre-done. Lights and rain and things that are falling and light flashes and all sorts of stuff. All that are generators that you literally can just drop in your timeline without having to even create any of it. And now between that and layering, just like Photoshop, so to speak, you can layer all these things and you can time them based on if something else happens, or if this affects this, then this happens. And you can have all this crazy stuff, and it's all within this $50 program. It's one of the advantages of being able to sell hardware for as much money as they sell it for, because they can give the stuff away. $50 is stupid for this. It's a stupid price. Yeah. By the way, this is also part of the system that I bought 10 years ago and have never updated, because they keep updating it. And I've had it on every Mac I've ever owned. It's $50 one time, and I've had it for 10, 12, 15 years. I don't know. As long as it's been out.
That's the advantage of Apple stuff.
Yeah, it's a big deal. So that's my it's not really a plug-in, but it's kind of a utility, but it's way more than utility. So
yeah.
And that leads us to things we would like to buy, but we can't afford them. Well, actually, mine's not that expensive, as it turns out. What's yours?
Well, Henry and I have been talking a lot about preamps. So he finally made another one of our guests on the interview podcast we've done. He started rebuilding a studio and got a new Mac, the Mac Mini, and all that stuff, and finally started dropping some money on the hardware. And he wants a couple different things, and he narrowed it down to 500 series rack and preamps. So we've been going back and forth about mic preamps.
Oh, yeah.
What's his favorite? What's my favorite? And I was like, I've only had so much experience, and most of my experience is through helping you build your studio and the things that we've gotten you. And so luckily I've been able to try the ADL stuff and some of your SSL API. So I've got to try some of the wide range of stuff that's out there, but I haven't tried everything. But one of the nicest preamps out there in the market is probably the 1073, and he's gonna get a clone of one of those. Yeah, he got a AEA, which is that ribbon company. He got one of theirs. The next one he's gonna get is a Neve clone. I was like, well, if I had the money, what kind of Neve products would I put in my studio? And I was like, man, I'd love to have a full drum kit, 8 mics on all Neve 1073s.
Oh, yeah.
So the Neve 1073 OPX is 8-channel mic preamp with remote, classic look, classic sound.
Yep.
Probably one of the most cloned mic pre's out there. I have to say.
Oh yeah.
But he makes a clone. There's like hundreds of clones. I think I may be wrong, but
that's a lot.
I'm not gonna go through all the specs and everything, but it's not bad for 8 channels of Neve. It's $3,700, a little under 37.
No, actually,
$36.95.
Yeah,
not horrible, but I don't have that kind of money sitting around. But maybe one day.
Yeah,
if I have some money to.
That's a good one.
That's a nice.
That's a good one. Mine's way cheaper. I'm in Behringer mode.
Oh, okay. What do they got going?
They released. I don't know. You remember the ARP 2600?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there were a couple of special ARP 2600s in the day. One was called the Blue Meanie, Blue Marvin, and the other one was called the Gray Meanie. And they were special in the way they sounded and the electronics behind them. Behringer released clones of those two ARP 2600s for $700 a piece. It's ridiculous.
I saw that, and I thought it was just a different color. I didn't know the story behind that.
No, they're different from each other, and they theoretically I don't know how well they did, but I've looked at some reviews. Like everything Behringer, they are going synth nuts. They're going berserk. By the way, they have a complete System 100 now. They have a complete Euro rack system and a bunch of modules. They're going synth berserk. But I have to tell you something that's really intriguing. To me, they're like everything else. They're 90, 95% there. Are they identical? Do they sound exactly like an old one? Well, first of all, you can't do that because you're talking about old analog electronics. If you were to find a 2600, an old one, good luck with that. I
looked it up. It was like $3 or $4 grand.
Yeah, and would it be working for how long? We don't know.
Yeah.
So, okay, yeah, maybe it wouldn't sound exactly the same, but if they come close enough, wouldn't it be cool to buy virtually every Behringer synth and just put a wall of Behringer synths up?
Yeah.
Now, it'd be cooler to buy the originals.
Sure, but it wouldn't be nearly as expensive.
No, it wouldn't be.
But at least you have a lot of these cool sounds at your fingertips. That is awesome.
Yeah, here's the problem, though. Here's the problem. If you did that, especially since they're going synth nuts, and they're probably going to make 10,000 other synthesizers. Every week there's a new Behringer synth. It's ridiculous.
That's true.
If you got them all, I don't believe it would be an easy thing to hide from your mate.
Yes.
Because you'd have this wall of cables.
Can't park in the garage anymore.
No.
I got something to set up.
This is not going to work well. No, I don't think so. So that's my pick. But I could see doing this. That
is cool. I didn't know that. I just glanced over it and I said, "Oh, it's just a different color."
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool.
One has the blue Marvin, and they have true spring reverb built into it.
Yeah, there's differences, but and their sounds, they're different in the way they sound too, the way they come off. And it's interesting. I actually looked up the actual original ones, and they're you can't even find them. I mean, they're worth a fortune. So.
Wow.
That's it. We've made it to our 40th podcast. Think about that.
Wow.
Isn't that impressive? Well,
yeah,
probably not for someone who's done 100,000 of them or something, but
yeah, I know. One day we'll get there.
Yeah. And so until next time, that's all I have to say.
Right.
Bye.
I'll see you next time.